बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम।
अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह, अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह। हय्या अलस्सलाह, हय्या अलस्सलाह, हय्या अलफलाह, हय्या अलफलाह। अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। अल्लाह
अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहु ला शरीका लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूल। अम्मा बादु फअऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। Before starting the khutbah, I want to make 3 announcements. First is just a reminder that during your prayers, please remember the whole of humanity. We've had some tragic accidents recently, which we'll come to later. So please remember those people and their families who've been affected. A member of the Jamaat has passed away in Bukhara, so we'll say his funeral prayers at the end of the prayer. And of course, please remember that Eid is on Wednesday, 28th of June, and the prayers will be at 11 o'clock promptly. First recitation is chapter 5, verse 8. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist wa la yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala Allah ta'dilu i'dilu huwa aqrabu littaqwa wattaqullaha innallaha khabirun bima ta'malun. O you who believe, be upright for Allah, bearers of witness with justice, and let not hatred of a people incite you not to act equitably. Be just, that is nearer to the observance of duty, and keep your duty to Allah. Surely Allah is aware of what you do. The next one is chapter 6, verse 151. And I will just recite the English translation. Say, come, I will recite what your Lord has forbidden to you. Associate not with him, and do good to parents, and slay not your children for fear of poverty. We provide for you and for them, and draw not nigh to indecencies, open or secret. And kill not the soul which Allah has made sacred, except in the course of justice. Thus, this he enjoins upon you, that you may understand. I have recited these two verses, and I start with Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. But I start with an example. Sometimes I watch lectures by a professor of philosophy of law at Harvard. And he asked, in one of his lectures, he asked his students a question. He said, you're driving along and you see two groups. One is a group of 2 or 3 children, and another one of some elderly men. Your car is out of control, and you can only save one of the groups. Which one will you save? And a lot of people said, well, we'll save the children because they still have their lives in front of them, and the older people, they've had their lives and so on and so forth. And then he raised another question. He said, what about if you recognize one of the old people, and he has almost come up with something that will cure all cancers or eliminate all hunger from the world. So which one will you save now? Which group will you save now? The children, whom you just said have their whole lives to look forward to, and we don't know what they'll contribute to society. Of course, they could turn out to be murderers and robbers, but anyway. If you now know that one of the people, the old people, has almost perfected this treatment for cancer or eliminating hunger and so on, what will you do? And people said, well, obviously, we will then save those parts, the older people, because in the long run, if this treatment can be implemented, then a lot more lives will be saved. So in a way, simple answer is that our reaction should be, what will save the most lives? And that was why when students heard that, well, one of the older people is about to discover the treatment for cancer, they said, we'll save him. Because by saving him, his treatment will go public and we'll save thousands, perhaps millions of people in their lives and so on. But you can see that the whole thing depends on what someone has to contribute to humanity and nothing else. First of all, They said, we'll save the children. Why? Because they've got 50, 60 years ahead of them, and in that time they can contribute a lot to society. And then they were given more information, and they said, we'll save the group of old men, because there's one in there whose work can save millions of people. But recently we had two incidents, and I want to look at those two incidents in the light of this discussion that I forget the professor's name. I listened to his lectures quite a lot. But the two incidents were that a boat full of poor people trying to get out of Pakistan and India and other countries and make their way to Europe illegally sank. And a lot of them were killed. Some people say there are 80 bodies have been discovered, but there probably 300-400 people have, well, they're missing. And you know something? No one helped. They were trying to get to Greece. Even the Greece lifeguard didn't help. Their excuse at the end was, well, we went and we asked them, do you need help? And they said, no, go away. So we went away. But shortly after that, that boat capsized, it sank. Maybe hundreds of people are dead. Some people say over 300 people are died. Why? Is it because they were poor people trying to get to Europe to improve their economic circumstances? Was that the reason? What does the Holy Quran say? The Holy Quran says, let not hatred of a people incite you not to act equitably. And we saw this in Brexit, didn't we? That in Britain, they said, we hate foreigners, we want them to go away, we want to rule our own little tiny island off the coast of Europe, and so on. The Holy Quran says we created tribes and nations and so on simply so that you may recognize each other. They have no more importance than that. But it seemed to me that where poor people are concerned, no one seems to care. Well, certainly, that was an example. Or there's going to be an inquiry about why the Greek lifeguards didn't help them. Not only Greek, I mean, they were going towards Greece, but the next door is Italian, and there are many other countries which have navies and, lifeguards and so on. None of them went. Now let's compare this with the incident of 5 rich people who went for a joyride in a submarine. They weren't escaping their economic circumstance in their own country to try and get to Europe to improve their economic circumstances. They were simply on a joyride. That famous ship, Titanic, had sunk, and its wreckage had been located some decades ago, and someone set up a tourist service. You pay £250,000 and I'll put you in this little submarine type vessel and we'll go down and you'll be able to see the Titanic. But what you would see is I don't know. The submarine sank, and sadly, the 5 people in it died. But what amazed me was the fact the rescue services from Canada and America and France and UK got involved in trying to rescue those people. Can anyone explain the reason? Can anyone explain the reason for spending, for using an immense amount of resource on these 5 people while completely ignoring the pleas and beggings of the 800 who drowned in that capsized boat? There were women and children in that boat, begging for help and begging for mercy. Britain didn't send an aeroplane to help locate the people drowning. France didn't send an aeroplane like they've done for these 5 people. No effort has been spared, quite rightly, in trying to save the lives of these 5 people. Even if it was just one person, it was worth spending all those resources. That's not what I'm talking about. The question I'm asking is this: why is it that not even a tiny fraction of the money spent on trying to save these 5 people, not only a tiny fraction of that money was spent, even by one country, in trying to save those 800 people? Was it because these 5 were rich and settled in the West, American and British and so on? And those 800 were poor, and they were trying to escape their poor countries to try and better their economic situation. And of course, Europe hates these people coming over and do everything to try and stop them. Of course, I laud the efforts that were put in to trying to save these 5 people. 2 of those were British of Pakistani descent. But I think 300 or 400 people who drowned in that ship were from Pakistan. And the only thing that I can see that was different was that by nationality these 5 were Europeans, and by economic circumstance they were rich. And those 800, by nationality, they were Asians, and by economic circumstance they were poor. And I find that a sad reflection on the character of the politicians in the West, that they behave in this callous manner towards human life. Each human life is equal to another, irrespective of whether that person is rich or poor. It's true that in some circumstances you have to make a decision. There's fighting going on for some reason, and 10 people are taken to this military hospital or a surgical unit in the field, and one of them is seriously ill, seriously hurt, injured. And the surgeon needs to spend a lot of time on that person to save his life. He can't do it. The question he's going to ask himself is not the rank of that person, not how rich that person is. The question he's going to ask is, I'll spend 4 hours in saying this one man's life. And there are 9 others who may die. Or some of them, 3 or 4 of them may die because of the time I spend on this one person. So what do? The doctor will go and save as many as he can, and then he will go back to the more seriously injured one. And if that person is still alive, then try and save his life. But his consideration is not the rank of the person. His consideration is not how well off he or they are, or anything else. His consideration is simply how many human beings I can save. And this is what the Holy Quran says. Kill not the soul which Allah has made sacred, except in the course of justice. So each soul that Allah has created is sacred. You may say that no one went out to kill these people, but failing to save them is exactly the same as actively killing them. There's no difference, in my opinion. I urge all of you to rise above national, religious, sectarian, and color prejudices, and treat each human being as a valuable creation and asset from God, as the Holy Quran says. The killing of one human being is the equivalent of murder of the whole of humanity. And saving one human being is equal to saving the whole of humanity. So let us all, I'm not saying Muslims are any better in doing these things. I'm urging Muslims as well to rise up to these ideals given in the Holy Quran and to act in accordance with them, so that the whole of humanity, regardless of their color or whatever, may improve its relationship with others and treat other humans with love and respect and care, regardless of the passport they hold, or the color they are, or the language they speak, or the religion they are. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'anil azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikun barrun rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم. اللهم اقتل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. واذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. अल्लाहु अकबर अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह। हय्य अलस सलाह हय्य अलल फलाह कद कामतिस सलात कद कामतिस सलाह। अल्लाहु अकबर ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दोलीन। आमीन। इज़ा जाअ नस्रुल्लाहि वल फ़त्ह वरअयतन नासा यदखुलून फी दीनिल्लाहि अफ़वाजा फसब्बिह बिहम्दि रब्बिक वस्तगफिरहु इन्नहु काना तव्वाबा। अल्लाहु अकबर। समी अल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दोलीन। आमीन। तब्बत यदा अबी लहबिन व तब मा अग़ना अन्हु मालुहु व मा कसब सयस्ला नारन ज़ाता लहब वम्रअतुहु हम्मालतल हब फी जीदिहा हब्लुम मिन मसद। अल्लाहु अकबर। समी अल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा। अल्लाहु अकबर। Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. Rabbana. Funeral praise for our friend and brother from Bukhara who has passed away. Bukhara in Pakistan, near Lahore. It's 4 takbeers. After the first takbeer, you recite the normal prayer. And then after the second takbeer, you recite the durood. And after the third takbeer, you recite either the Arabic prayer for the deceased, or you can say prayers in your own language. And then it comes to an end after the fourth takbir. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining us for our Friday service. Just to remind you again that Eid al-Adha is on Wednesday the 28th, and the prayers will be, prayers will be at 11. So please make sure you're on time. With the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.